Proverbs 22 verse 3, let's say it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. You want to sing the song? Yeah, did we sing? We sang the song for you already, didn't we? Yeah. Okay. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. But foolish people keep going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Okay, there is a second verse to that. We will teach you that a little later this afternoon. Let me offer an alternate wording for this. Alternate wording might be, wise people plan ahead to avoid trouble, whereas foolish people walk right into it. Unfortunately, we are not used culturally. We're not used to planning ahead.
No.
We're not used to even thinking about our needs, and that complicates our Laodicean condition. Because everything we need in our homes, our modern homes, we can pretty much have at the flip of a switch or the turn of a knob.
That's right.
And so we don't even think about it. Things that we need, we just, there it is.
Yes.
We don't think about planning ahead to have it, and we don't think about all the hours and hard work that has gone in to be able to have that stuff at the flip of a switch or the turn of a knob. You know, it's just there all the time. And a couple generations now have grown up with that being the case. You know, where does water come from? The faucet. You know, that kind of stuff. And so when we don't have our switches to flip or our knobs to turn, then it becomes survival. Okay? Because we don't know how to do stuff without them. I know of 3 groups of Seventh-day Adventists who have gone on an Sabbath afternoon hike. These all happened within, say, a 75-mile radius. Okay, groups of Adventists like you and I going on a Sabbath afternoon hike, and they're just doing a Sabbath afternoon hike. Okay, you've been there.
No.
And something happened, and they ended up spending the night. They weren't planning to at all, but something happened, and you know, just they ended up spending the night. Okay. And on one of these groups, when that happened, they were frantically calling 911 on the cell phone for the helicopter to come and get them and take them back to their switches and knobs. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, you know, God has just set you up for a tremendous learning experience, and all you can do is get me out of here, you know. And the thing that I'm also putting together with this is, if there's 3 groups that I know of within that small an area that this has happened to, I'm sure it's happened over and over and over again across the country. You know, I just didn't know about it. And so maybe you got your own stories, I don't know. So we need to learn, you know, when we're talking this morning about fleeing to the most desolate and solitary places, I've been out there, can I assure you there are no switches or knobs at all out there? Okay? For some of us, it's going to be a very different life. And so this afternoon, we're going to talk about that. And the reason I mentioned the Sabbath afternoon hike groups is because it might happen sooner than you think. Okay, because none of those groups planned on it happening that way. And I think in these experiences, or in the sharing of these experiences, God has some tremendous lessons for us that we would be wise to learn. I want to share a couple of verses and quotes here with you next. Philippians 4:19. Probably most of you have that memorized. Okay, what's it say? My God shall do what?
Supply all your needs.
Supply all your needs. Okay, that's like a blank check. Okay, huge promise. God's promise to supply all our needs. Okay, we're going to look at a quote later on in one of the other sessions that figures into heavily. Right now, I want to connect it with a quotation from Volume 5, Testimonies to the Church, page 321. So it's like 5T and then 321, just backwards from 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. It says, God gives opportunities. Success depends on the use made of them. The openings of providence must be quickly discerned and eagerly seized upon. Okay, let me read that again. God gives opportunities. Success depends on the use made of them. The openings of providence must be quickly discerned and eagerly seized upon. Okay, as I've thought about this, if all we know how to do is flip switch or turn a knob, okay, and God provides what we need in some other way, say some more natural way, maybe some way that He would provide for us out in the wilderness, it's quite possible that we could walk right past that and not recognize it.
All right.
Okay? And so whose fault is it then that we go without? It's our own. Okay, so we need to learn these things. And that kind of ties in with the whole Laodicean condition too. What's Laodicea's problem again?
Need of nothing.
We don't recognize our need. We don't think we need anything. Okay, but we do have needs.
Yes.
Okay? And simply because we haven't learned to recognize them or understand what they are even maybe, doesn't mean we still don't have these needs. Now, the other thing that goes with that is there is this myth floating around that if you just know the right techniques, you can survive on nothing. Okay, that is pure myth.
Yeah.
Okay, we need certain things in order to stay alive.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that figures heavily into our thinking about the final end times when we flee to the wilderness. And I'm going to do what I can to dispel that myth, but hopefully you will be willing to let it go rather than embracing it. I want to talk now just briefly about something that I've seen happen. Over the years, we have taken many people on their first wilderness trip. I mean, like overnight wilderness trip. Whether it's been a backpacking trip or a wilderness survival trip. We've just taken a lot of people on their first trip. And something that we noticed very early on when we first started doing this was that typically on their first trip, okay, people bring a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need and don't bring what they really do need. And so for many years I've been like, okay, how can we get past that? Because it seemed at the beginning the only way that people would understand what they truly did need and not need was to take them on a trip. But unfortunately, that's a commitment of a big chunk of time, and if you don't have what you need for that kind of length of time, you're going to be carrying a lot of stuff that's just dead weight for you, and you're not going to have what you need, and so that means you're going to be suffering one way or the other.
Right.
And so this program, or the way I'm doing the program here this afternoon, is kind of my latest attempt to bridge past that, okay, and get us to realize what we need so that we will be sure and at least have those things. If you want to bring a bunch of extra stuff, I mean, it's your back that's carrying it, not mine. But, I want you to at least have what you need, because if you don't have what you need, then you're a definite liability to the rest of the group. And that's a whole nother topic. Something else we learned really early on when we started studying survival was the need to plan ahead. I've kind of brought that out in what I've said so far, but I want to spell it out very distinctly here before I do anything else. And that's the need to plan ahead. You know, if we're just used to flipping switches and turning knobs, we're not used to planning ahead. And so if we wait until we need blank, you know, fill in the blank there, whatever that is that we need, to work towards having that, we may not get it, especially in a wilderness situation, you know, short of running back home to get it. The thing is, when we flee with our final flight to the wilderness, there's no going back to town to get anything. Okay, so we better be sure we have what we need when we go that time. And that's kind of the burden of what I'm saying here. So we need to learn to recognize our needs and plan ahead, which kind of ties in with the whole Proverbs 22 verse 3 thing. Okay, let's go up to the board. Again, I don't have any notes on this there isn't anything in your handout on this, so if you want to take notes, you might want to write some stuff down. Okay, there is a list of 5 things that we call the survival priorities. I'm not writing survival priorities here as yes, this is plantain, in particular the broadleaf plantain, which I like better than the narrowleaf plantain. What's it good for?
Insect bite.
What?
Insect bite.
Oh, stop coughing? Okay.
For inflammation also.
For inflammation? Yes.
Yes.
This mixes really well with aloe vera. So like all the stuff you can use aloe vera for, you can do this, and if you mix the two together, it gets super good.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You can also eat it, did you know that?
Yes.
It's good eating.
Eat it.
This one here is kind of poor looking, so
Mr. Dillon.
He's a vegetarian.
yeah, it's been stomped on a bunch,
There's a
which is
question
too
here.
bad. Did you know this is not native to North America? Okay, the Indians called it white man's foot because everywhere the white man walked, it started growing. Fortunately, it's a good weed that, you know, that doesn't have, it's not noxious or bad. And I have to, just a minute, I have to say this very early on, so I'm going to say it now. I have taken groups on like plant walks like this, and I'm pointing out stuff that you can eat or medicinals or so on. And then I happen to glance back and here's somebody just grabbing stuff and eating it. And I'm cringing inside.
They make it act.
And I thought about like, why does that happen? And I started asking some groups, and some adults even admitted to thinking that way. And so I thought, well, that must be it. In a lot of people's thinking, there's like one category, and it's all weeds and grass. Okay, or whatever they call it. Okay,
Right.
I'm just calling it weeds and grass. But it's just all wild plants, maybe. And here I come along, and I'm showing certain stuff that's edible, and they're like, oh, weeds and grass are edible. So they just start eating all of it.
Taste testers.
Maybe that's how they found out what stuff would kill you, you know? So anyway, I just really want to say this like very early on. Until you are able to recognize the individuality within plants, okay, don't just start eating anything. All right, and I would suggest you start with learning like leaf shape. Okay, there's other things too, but leaf shape's a big one. And I'm not going to turn this into a botany class. We're just out here to point out a few resources. But please, okay, spend some time learning how to distinguish individuality in the plant world before you start eating plants. Seen a few heads shake. Thank you. The way to know broadleaf plantain. What shape is this leaf?
Teardrop.
Kind of oval, yeah, maybe a little bit of teardrop shape. But notice on the bottom, see we call that parallel veining. Okay, most leaves will have like one main vein down the center and then they branch out from there. This leaf has like parallel main veins. Okay, that's a very distinguishing characteristic of the plantain. The narrowleaf plantain has that too. The broadleaf plantain, I'm seeing more of it in the east. The narrow stuff's out in the west a little bit more, although we have both.
Drone.
Okay. Anyway,
It's just Randy.
there's also one other thing that's illustrated here that I want to share with you. Among wild edible plant people, there's a saying that buds are best. And I mean, this is true with a lot of our regular foods that we eat. Broccoli is probably the best example there. You know, broccoli is just the little flower buds, all of them clusters of flower buds. If you let that broccoli mature, it's gonna like burst into flowers real soon. And so it's the young, tender stuff that you want to get, because the plant's putting energy into that so that it can grow, and also it hasn't gotten old and tough yet. Where's a shotgun when you need it?
It's Big Brother after us.
So anyway, here's the real little tender one here that came up when I picked this one. Anybody want to try eating this? There you go, share it with your friends. Also, this leaf here, it hasn't gotten too old and tough yet. It would be okay. Although it looks like it's gotten stepped on a whole bunch, and who knows what was on the foot that stepped it. So feed it to the kids, yeah.
It's good, Alda.
Okay, I like it better cooked for whatever that's worth. All right, yeah. But again, if you just crush this up, some people say chew it up, and the saliva with it makes it work really good. Stick it on insect bites and poison ivy, whatever kind of stuff. Works good. Anybody want this leaf rather than just toss it to the ground?
Is it also work for an antiseptic, or?
I don't see it being antiseptic.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll find something that covers that base.
Can't help with pain a little.
Yeah, here's the plant. Okay.
Plantain.
Yeah, it's real common all through here.
We have a lot of it.
Okay. Oh.
Oh,
Look out
nature's
for the
toilet
fence.
paper, yeah.
Electric.
Yeah, don't.
Electric fan. Electric.
And it's on.
And it's on. Okay.
I already got shocked.
You got shocked? Oh wow.
Yes, I got shocked 2 times.
What a shocking experience.
I got 2 times.
Okay, this plant here out west, we call it cowboy toilet paper.
Now, why would that be?
This is plantain. Oh, no. Mullen. We just been talking about plantain. This is mullen. Mullen is also, it makes good toilet paper. I've heard of people even harvesting this and drying it and then using it later. Okay, I've only used the fresh stuff. It's also a medicinal that's good for respiratory tract stuff. I'll just leave it at that. If I'm not comfortable with you just eating everything, I for sure don't want you doing medicine with, that type philosophy. So get something a little more definitive and spend some time learning individuality and, learn these things before you start playing with them in your body. I just saw something else that I didn't, let me see if there's another one down the way here. Yeah, there's this one here. Okay, we'll do this. Oh, that one's chewed up. Okay, hang on a minute. I'm going to go back and get some. I'll be right back.
Pause this. I don't have a way to pause this thing. I wish there was. Oh well.
It's gonna go in the tree. It wouldn't kill you, but it would stun.
Yeah, horses will come.
Wake you up. Yeah. gonna cut it. Yeah.
Don't touch the fence. Don't touch the fence. It's electric.
Yeah, him.
He touched it once.
Yeah, take Daddy's word for it. Daddy's been stuck in an electric fence before.
You couldn't let go?
No, I got stuck between my head. It's
Oh, really?
yeah.
What's it good for?
Food.
What is this?
Milkweed.
Milkweed.
Milkweed, yeah. See the milk dripping on?
Uh-huh.
They thought about making rubber out of that at one point.
Oh.
It's an edible food.
You guys are blessed here in the East. Your Eastern milkweed's better than the stuff we have in the West. Milkweed has a lot of good qualities. Notice the way the leaves come off of the stem. It's like 2 leaves this way, and then 2 leaves this way, then 2 this way, and 2 this way. Okay, that's kind of distinctive. Also the shape of the leaf. And what are these things going to do? Make flowers. Oh yeah. Oh, there's some more down there. This stuff's going to town. Anybody know what to do with this?
Good for warts.
Good for warts.
Yeah,
The sap, right?
the milk.
The milk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it get gummy?
Morning and night.
Milk, does it get gummy?
Yeah, it's gummy.
It's an edible green.
It's edible. Okay.
That was for what? To eat?
Good.
That milk can be eaten?
What?
No, nothing. What is that? It's a function.
This is called milkweed. That's the name of the plant. Because of the milky sap.
Don't put it in your smoothie.
No, don't put it in your
What
smoothie.
what is the function?
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's medicinal for warts, they say.
What else?
Again, buds are best. So what part of the plant are we going to pick to eat? The young stuff up here in the top. Probably these leaves are okay too. So I would just break it off probably right here. You know, take that above that, okay? And all of that, stick it in the pot, cook it up. The stuff we have out west, I'll just tell you how, I'll tell you what I would do with this if I picked this in California. It looks slightly different, but same, not exactly the same plant, but similar. And so the same similar things. I would put this in water, bring it to a boil, dump the water out, put some fresh water in there, bring it to a boil, okay? And maybe one more time, just tasting it until it's not bitter anymore. Okay, I've heard your stuff in the East here, some of it you don't even have to change the water. Okay, but you might have to change the water once or anyway, I've had to change it up to 5 times when I was doing the young fruits. So the young buds you can do that with, the flowers, they call them little broccolis, and the young fruits that grow on here. Now the fruits will get, but how big do they get here? About that big? Yeah, okay. When they're about this kind of size. Okay, think about zucchinis, right? You want to pick zucchinis when they're only about this long, right? When they get like so, they're not so good anymore. Same thing going on with this one. Okay, but the creek, all right? I didn't know that nice flat place was down there for where we could have hung out, or we would be doing this next thing down there. But anyway, like I said, we didn't know that it was there, so we didn't bring the stuff down with us. What happens when you go hiking on a hot summer afternoon? You get thirsty, okay? And so we walk down to the creek, okay? There's plenty of water in that creek. Is that water okay to drink? No. Probably not. And so what can we do to make it, okay, again, I'm illustrating a way of thinking here as much as I am listing some stuff out. What can we do to make it okay to drink? Boil it. I'll purify it by what? Boiling. We're going to go with boiling. Okay, filters work great, but the inherent problem with all filters is sooner or later they plug up. Then what? Boil. Okay, and if we're out there till Jesus comes, probably the filter is going to plug up before he gets here. And so boiling is our backup method. And so we're going to just go with boiling right now. Okay, so we have a need. What's that need? Water. Goes with the survival priorities. All right? What do we need to have in order to meet that need? because there's no faucet out there to flip on and to get water. Okay, water's in the creek, but it's not safe to drink. Start a fire. Okay, in order to, notice how I'm tracing this back. Okay, so we need the water. In order to have the water, we need a fire. But in order to have fire, what do we need?
Wood.
Wood. There's probably plenty of that we could have gathered down there, though. What else do we need? Some kind of fire starter. Okay?
Use wood.
So we need a fire starter in order to have fire, in order to be able to boil water. Now, what else do we need in order to boil water besides fire? Some kind of a cook pot. Okay, so I'm going to make another list. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Becky just to save a little bit of time here. But while she's telling what she's doing and all that, I'm going to start making a list on the board. So far we have knife on our list. Okay, we talked about knives. Okay, we also have a fire starter on the list. And we have some kind of cook pot on the list. Okay, these are things that we want to bring in our packs with us, because you don't have them, you need them. You don't have them, you're going to have to make it from something out in nature. Can you imagine making a knife out there?
No mercy.
You're just breaking a rock and using that sharp edge. Okay, this is going to be way better than that, right? Is it hard for me to bring this along? No. Is it hard for me to bring that saw along? No. Okay, cook pot, that's even harder to make.
Yeah.
Okay? So we need to be thinking about these things that we need, what we can bring with us. Okay, Becky, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I can't hold that and do what I'm going to do. So if you can't hear me, come up closer, because I can't hold the microphone while I do what I'm going to show you. I will need a helper. Would you hold this little mess there? Okay, so if I'm out in the woods and I did not take a fire starter with me, then I will have to make a fire from sticks, fire starter from sticks. And so I'm going to demonstrate that for you. This is a fire board, and this is actually one that's made from cedar. It's actually incense cedar from California. I'm not sure. I think you have a different kind of cedar out here. This is an incense cedar. And I have a spindle. This is actually mule fat. I'm not sure if you have mule fat that grows here. This grows in California again. I got it out there because that's where we're from. But you can use other kind of woods here. You can use maple. You guys have maple here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots
You
of
could
it.
use poplar, probably ash, some type of soft wood. If you can push your thumbnail in it, it would work good for a fireboard or a spindle. Now, these grow just like this, and so if you use maple, of course, or one of those other woods, you probably have to carve a spindle to make it the size you want it. Although I know people that make ones that are as big around as my thumb. So I like the thinner ones. I like take a little less energy, and as I'm getting older, I find that that's easier for me to use. And then I have me just a little piece of wood. You could use a dry leaf, anything, just to catch my dust here. I prepared my my little hole there in my board and my notch before where you guys took off on your walk. So I have that ready, so I don't have to take time doing that right now. And then I have a handhold, and this one happens to be an elk knee bone, but you could use a piece of wood and do this to it, like this, and so this is like a little handhold. The difference with this, if I use this for my handhold, it's going to drill into the wood. With my knee bone, it doesn't, and so it takes less energy if I use my knee bone than if I'm drilling, and it's drilling this in along with the other. So plus the knee bone, the bone is already lubricated, and so it spins easier. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate to you how to make a fire with a fire drill, a bow drill. And then of course you have to pray for fire. Okay, so we'll see if I can do this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to brace your arm against your leg so it doesn't wobble around. And when we don't worry about making fire right now. We just want to fill our notch with some dust. If you can see the notch, you can see there's getting some dust down in there. And so I'm just going to kind of add a little speed and some pressure and see if we can get a coal. And I think we got it.
Perfect timing.
Yes, we do.
So I
Now,
use
when
some
you
tinder.
once get your coal, don't get too excited. Let it grow a little bit before you do anything else. You guys see that coal?
It's actually not too hard if you know what you're doing. It looks not very hard.
Okay, we're going to put that right here in this little tinder bundle that we've made.
You said this was a nest?
Little nest. Okay, and then you're going to hold that up just like that and blow it to flame. Don't squish it now. You want to hold it above your face so it doesn't blow up into a flame on your face, up higher.
Singe your eyebrows.
When you get a flame, just drop it on the ground. Blow long and hard. Middle. Nice long stroke. There you go. A little harder. There you go. Almost got it. There you go.
Amen.
Now do it when it's cold and wet, right?
How do you make the twist too?
Okay, here's a simpler drill, or not drill, bow. This is made out of a branch, you can tell. Works just as well as that one. This one's a special one to me, just because this one happens to be one that my niece made me. It's a That was before they had all these YouTube videos out telling you how to do it. We were learning from a book. And it took us quite a while, with quite a few of us working at it, putting different kind of woods together and trying to get a coal. It took quite a while. And then we finally got it after several days of a lot of us trying. I don't know, there was probably, I don't know.
We added up the hours after we got done. It was like 3 of us working for a full day before we got it. But that was like over several sessions.
Over several days.
Wow.
And and so then we could finally make fire, okay? But then I noticed as I was getting older, it was getting harder and harder. So I adopted a couple little things. One, instead of doing it on the ground like I used to do it, I do it on a stump or on a log because I don't have to bend over quite so far. It makes it easier for me. And then also, certain kinds of woods make a difference. I know for a while I was trying to make a fire, and I was using a large spindle, more like this size, or even this size. And I was getting a lot of smoke, but I wasn't getting a coal. And these are both cedar, and I was also using a cedar fireboard. And I was not getting a coal. And I would get my dust there, then I would take a break and rest. And then I would go back and I would spin it some more and try to get my coal, and I'd just spin, and I couldn't get that coal. And then my daughter comes around and she says, "Here, Mom, try this." Oh, she's holding it.
You done with me?
Yes, thank you so much.
It might be a good idea to show us how to wrap this into there. And
Okay.
make the-
And so she gave me this little skinny little mule fat spindle. And I got a fire just like that. I go, how's that? And I realized that this little skinny spindle doesn't take near the energy to spin as that big fat spindle. And so unless you have some muscle, and some of you guys, it's no big deal. Some of these guys, they have lots of muscle, and they can just whiz that thing around and make a nice coil with a big fat spindle. But myself, I needed a skinnier spindle. So if any of you are trying to make a spindle and you're having trouble getting fire, try to use a skinnier spindle. It doesn't take quite as much energy to spin it. Now, so I can make a fire using a bow drill. There's also a way to make a fire with a hand drill, and that is use a spindle, something like this. This one happens to be elderberry. You guys have elderberries here?
Yeah.
This is an elderberry spindle, and I cannot make fire this way. It takes some muscle, and it takes some tough hands. I know my husband, the few times he did it, he got done, he had blisters on his hands. And he works outdoors lots, so his hands were used to work, but he still had blisters from doing it. On the other hand, our daughter and her husband, I don't know, maybe they're young, I don't know. But they can just have a fire pretty quick with one of these. But they use both of them. They'll have one person start spinning it from the down, and the next one takes over, and they just take turns on the top, moving it down. Because you have to have downward pressure while you're spinning at the same time. So I can't make fire that way, but I can make with a bow drill, and I can make fire other ways.
Dynamite?
And I would recommend, if you're going to make fire, if you're going to be able to make fire up in the woods, that you have more than one method that you know how to make fire with. Because if I go up there and I don't have my drill set that I've made already with me, then I might got to make one. That's going to take some time. Okay, if I have a piece of paracord with me, then I could use that to put on my fire drill. If not, I've got to make some cordage out of some plant material, which I have done. And you guys can learn how to do that. We're not going to be teaching that this trip just because there's too much stuff to teach you everything, I'm afraid. But you can Google it. Watch a video. YouTube video. They tell you how to do all that stuff anymore. So, and then I have to carve my sticks, and I have to do all that stuff, and just find just the right match of spindle, what kind of sticks to use to get it. And so it might take me, I might not get fire the first day if I'm out there. And so it's good to have some backup time plans. This is a flint and steel kit. Have you guys ever used a flint and steel kit? Do you guys know what a flint and steel kit is? It's an ancient method of making fire that's been around for a really long time. Back, how long has it been around, honey?
At least a Roman time.
Yeah. You want something that's sustainable in the woods. How long are we going to be out in the wilderness? Until Jesus comes, right? We don't know how long that's going to be. It could be a few months. So, I also take a lighter with me. But a lighter is going to run out of fuel after a while, isn't it? If you take matches, they're going to quit after a while. If you take a ferro rod, a lot of people are into those nowadays. They're going to quit after a while too. They only last so long. But a flint and steel method, it's going to go on. I could probably use it my lifetime, give it to my daughter. She could use it her lifetime and my granddaughters, and it's still going to keep working. It doesn't wear out. Okay, I'm going to need another volunteer. Okay. On the other side of you. Take that and go there. My husband's going to add a little bit more to that. That's a little bit sparse. I don't want you to get burnt. Okay, so a flint and steel kit. I have a steel striker. My husband makes these out of garage springs. And I have a rock, and it makes sparks. Okay? And so I also have some charred cloth here in this little tin. And so now you say, well, if you're out in the woods, you're not going to have any cloth to char. And that's true. But there's other things that work besides the cloth, and one of those, oh, now he's biting me. One of those is if you've ever been out in the woods and you see that spongy, dead, dry wood, that rotten wood that's kind of spongy, that's called punk wood. You could put that in here and I could char that and it would work just the same. If you're going to use cloth, it needs to be 100% cotton or linen, something like that. You don't want to use stretch denim because it is not 100% cotton and it's not going to work. In fact, I've charred some stretch denim before, not realizing it was stretch denim. Had a whole batch of charred cloth made, and none of it worked. So, you have to make sure it's 100% cotton. And I have been having a little bit of trouble with my charred cloth since we've been here in the east, because it seems like it wants to get damp. Okay, we're going to stick this down here in her little nest. Okay, and just hold it gently.
Esa es la que crema que tiene, no sé, es una como papel que se quema, lo usa con la piedra.
Much closer
Hay
enough.
que agarrarlo y lo agarro.
Like that. Supposed to do that.
Parece
A
como,
little harder. There you go.
parece como fuera como una
Perfect.
tela.
Excuse me, what is that you have here? That one? In that container?
Just a minute.
No, pues una porción.
All right, give her a hand.
Yay.
Thank you. Now, if we were going to actually make a fire, what would we have to have before we did this?
Something ready.
We have to have some stuff ready, yeah. Can I take this little tinder bundle and start this log on fire?
No.
Of course not. That's silly, isn't it?
Kindling.
Would have to have some little tiny sticks or some kindling, and then stuff a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger. You have to have it all ready, because if you go to get it ready after you've already got this is going to be long burned up before you get it. So you have to have all that ready ahead of time. And then I also have something else in my little patches. I always keep a tinder bundle in here. I don't use it unless I can't find anything dry out there. And then I may use it, and then soon as I get my fire going, I'll put something else there and dry it out so it's ready for next time to replace it right away, because you don't want to be caught without any dry tinder. I also keep some of this in there. It's just look like little sticks, but these are actually what we call fat wood, or wood that's saturated with pine pitch.
Oh, yes.
And if you see a dead pine tree out there, sometimes down on the base of the tree, or where the tree's been laying down, the pine pitch is drained down there, and it'll be the wood's just saturated with this stuff. You can buy it, but why buy it when you can go out in the woods and find it? But I could actually light this like a candle, or I could take my knife and scrape it into my tinder bundle. If it's having trouble getting it going, it would help get it started easier. So there's some little tricks you can use to do that. So you were asking me a question a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know what is that.
In the tinder bundle?
Yes.
That, we picked this.
No, they are in the container.
Oh, that's charred cloth.
Oh.
Yeah, I just told you about that. 100% cotton or linen. Remember, I just told you about that.
Yes, the lady
How do you
knows what
chart
it
it?
is.
How do you
Okay, to make charred cloth, what I would do is I just get my little tin, and you can use an Altoid tin, like mint tin or something like that. They have the little hinges on it, which is already a little hole. These are some tins that I actually ordered a whole bunch because we make these kits and sell them usually. Don't get excited, we didn't bring any. And we drilled a hole through the lid and through the bottom. See that? And then you just put you fill it full of your little pieces of cloth, and then you put your holes so they line up and put it in the fire, and you will see smoke and fire coming out of that hole. And you just leave it in there until it's no longer smoking or fire, and then you take it out, and you don't open it. You might want to peek, but if you open it and it gets all that air.
The heading for that, but that's what this list is called. Okay, these are the things that we need in order to stay alive, and not counting air. Okay, air would be above and beyond that, and anything spiritual above and beyond that even. So these are actual physical things that we need in order to stay alive. Okay, what are they?
Water, shelter, food. It's a liability.
What else?
Food.
Food? Uh-huh, you just ate lunch. Interestingly enough.
Hygiene items.
Interestingly enough, when I ask most groups this, food is the thing that gets listed first.
Shelter.
We have shelter there, number one.
Tools. Hygiene.
Yeah, hygiene items. There's a whole category. I call it health concerns. And this is stuff like safety, sanitation, hygiene, getting adequate rest. You know, all those things that we need to do to stay safe and healthy.
Knowledge of herbs.
Medicine?
Any medicines that were necessary would fit into that health concerns category. One more thing. It's a nice hot day, so we're not even thinking about this. What?
A knowledge of herbs, like we eat edible herbs.
That's going to fit into the food.
Clothing.
Clothing fits into the shelter.
Tools.
Oh. Blanket fits into the shelter. Tools are another category. We'll talk about that in a bit. Probably after we come back. Yeah, I think somebody heard somebody say it. Fire.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Got warm.
Yes, ice cream. No. Hot dog.
Haven't eaten nothing.
Sandwich. Syrup.
Okay, strongly recommend that you memorize this list. Okay, what's first? Shelter, water, health concerns, fire, food. Let me tell you the reason for that particular order, because this is a prioritized order. Shelter's number one because within hours you're going to want shelter from something. Okay, right now we're wanting shelter from the sun. We're in here for the shade. Okay, you could get into tomorrow without water. Can go a couple weeks without food. Might not feel good about it, but you'll live. Okay, health concerns is in the middle. You always want to stay safe and healthy. Okay, even under normal situations, whatever that is anymore. If you get sick or injured, your situation just got worse. For sure, you don't want that to happen in a survival situation. Okay? Fire, it also kind of umbrellas over all of them. You might want fire in connection with your shelter for light and or heat. Fire to boil water to purify it, fire to cook food, fire to make tools, and so on. Okay? Same again. Shelter, water, health concerns, fire, food. Again, memorize that list. Okay? And I hope you realize how everything we do for the rest of this afternoon is based on those 5. Okay. We're not going to address them in this order. Some of them we may not even talk about or like do any demonstrations or whatever with. But before the program's over, as in till Tuesday noon, we will have discussed like each one of these a little more in depth. We're going to get up now and go for a walk. On this walk, you kids are all about it. That's good. Let me tell you how the walk's going to work. Okay, again, we're not going very far. My goal is not to cover any kind of territory or get to any destination. It's about stopping to smell the roses along the way, kind of thing. Okay, if you want to hear what Becky or I are saying, stay close. Group this big, I just, having done this a lot before, it tends to get strung way out, and the people at the back, get about halfway by the time we're turning around to come back and all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to be part of, what we're talking about, just stay close. I'll leave that responsibility up to you.
We're not going to be going fast.
We're not going to go fast. And the main thing we're doing on this walk is pointing out resources for these 5 things. Okay? And talking about them a bit. I think that's all I have to say for right now.
How far are you gonna go?
She said, how far are you going to go?
Not very far. I don't know how to describe it. To be honest with you, I don't even know yet. We're just going to go out there and find some stuff, and at an appropriate time we'll come back. I'm more worried about the timing than any kind of distance. So I'm not expecting to get very far. Maybe to the creek.
It's pretty close.
That's not far at all. No. Okay.
About 200 yards, maybe.
Hey, that's too little. That's too far. No, that's too little. How about 200 million? No, how about infinity yards?
How to survive in the wilderness. That's what you need to listen when we go out there.
are best. So like pick the young fruits. I remember once I had to change the water like 5 times for a whole batch of young fruits. Okay? But if you're hungry, you don't mind, right? But I've heard like your stuff out here in the east, you don't have to, maybe once or twice and you're good. So something worth playing with. This is a common weed, right? I saw some on the other pasture over there. I'm glad I found this so I didn't have to haul you all over there.
Too common.
Yeah, so this is something worth playing with. But it's also, this is a native plant, so you're going to find this in natural areas also.
It's the exclusive food of monarch butterflies. They'll eat nothing else.
Yes, the monarchs love this stuff.
Yeah.
And
You can eat that, like, you can
so
eat
when
it
I
in
don't need to, I usually don't try to gather the whole plant.
in salads.
This was right by the gate. I figure sooner or later it's going to get run over. Can also tell the plant's been
Taste it,
abused a
and if
bit
it's not
already,
you can.
and so I went ahead and picked it for that reason, and also didn't want to make you stand around the electric fence and the gate and all of that stuff, because somebody would have gotten zapped besides the kids. So anyway, does anybody want to try this? I think the really young stuff, you might be able to try it. Anybody want to try it? You do. Pick one.
I'll try it.
Can I try one?
Sure.
It's not like I've never been sick before.
Yeah, I think the worst would be it would be bitter.
For meals
Is
all
it
the
bitter?
time.
Which one am I taking?
The
You're the
young
pastor.
little stuff.
It'll eat for him.
Either
do it.
leaves or the young flowers of
No,
fruit.
the liver.
It's good?
Well,
I took those.
Okay, so it's not bitter. That's good.
medicinal.
Can we
also-
eat the fruit?
Yes, those are
So
flowers.
it's better to be cooked than like
If the
It's better than
soil
the
is
other.
healthier, it'll be sweeter.
Better than the
soil.
plantain.
The more
Well, that
minerals
plantain's
the beer
been,
it gets, less minerals,
yeah.
the more bitter.
Yeah,
Oh, here.
Tastes like
Yeah. True of any fruit. Even radish and
we
turns
can eat the wilderness.
Kind of tastes like spinach almost. A little bit.
Hey, there's more here.
Yeah,
Everyone say
it wasn't.
it's tasting
It's not
good.
bad.
to feel something like.
What? That's the flowers. Little
I think if
flowers.
you eat it, it helps you remember the plant better. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever forget.
That leaf is getting bigger. If it's bitter on you, just go ahead and spit it out. But go ahead and try it. Let us know.
No, it's good.
It's good.
You got one of the buds.
That's plantain.
So it's a good
Yeah,
one.
this is milkweed.
It's good.
Yeah.
They grow in most states.
Pardon?
Use it
They
in
grow
salad.
in most states.
Yes.
Bring your husband one.
This boiling water,
Pardon?
the idea of boiling water goes against anything I've read about escape and evasion. Building a fire.
Really small.
We're gonna do it like the Indians did and don't have any smoke.
Yeah, gotta learn how to make a fire that doesn't give yourself away. But that's a whole nother class. Anybody else want to take a pinch?
Bad.
Going once, going twice.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, I'm leaving it. Oh, somebody here. Yeah, yeah. You see that little thing sticking up in the very middle there? You want to grab that? Or the little flowers. You guys are still full of lunch. I can tell. Yeah, take the younger ones.
Actually, you got no kiss.
Good. Awesome. Have some more. I'm gonna give it to the horses.
Try these ones. These ones good.
Anybody else? Going one?
Actually, this tastes so good.
All right.
I wasn't expecting that. It has like a little fruity.
Can you put it in the salad?
Yeah, you can do that too.
That shouldn't be too bad to them.
Well, hopefully we'll.
You want the spelling of it. What is it again?
As opposed to poison someone.
Bye, Daddy.
Hadley. Out.
Okay, anybody know this one? It's one of the dock family, okay? Whether it's yellow dock or not, I don't know, but it is one of the docks.
Maybe brown duck. D-O-T or D-O-C-K?
D-O-C-K. And I have no idea why it has that name. Dock. There's several varieties of this. Notice the reddish color here, okay? And this is in the horse pasture, so who knows what it would do without the horses, okay? And I'm surprised they haven't eaten it. But out west, this stuff will grow about this tall. And when it matures, it gets this reddish. And you'll be driving down the street and you see stalks about this tall, and that reddishness, and you're like, oh, there's a big patch of dock. The interesting thing is, wherever this stuff grows, there's usually lots of it. And it likes to grow by creeks. This is probably the wild edible I've eaten the most of, simply because we like to camp by creeks. This stuff likes to grow by creeks, and again, wherever it grows, there's lots of it. And so we can gather a bunch. These older leaves are obviously getting tough. There are some young leaves back down inside here that if you want to sample them, go ahead and come and get them.
What are they for?
To just eat. I like it cooked better than like raw, but some people pick it and put it in salads and stuff. It has kind of a lemon tanginess to it. It should. No? That's because it's good in the horse pasture.
It's bitter.
Also, yeah, this is, yeah. Okay. So maybe you want to taste it, from an area before you start gathering a whole bunch. Also, the seeds are edible. These seeds aren't even nowhere near ripe and ready. But when they are, you can just, go like this and get them like that, and then just kind of thrash them with your hands and blow on them to winnow them, and you're left with these little, what do they call it? Tetrahedral seeds, shaped seeds.
Like chia seeds? Like a chia seed?
Kind of that kind of a flavor to it, yeah. But in the big patch of it, you could gather a whole bunch pretty quick. So anyway, that's something to look out for. Okay, do you guys see what I mean about not getting very far on the height? Yeah, you're catching on.
What is the spelling of this?
M-U-L-L-I-E-N.
Do they grow by itself or do they plant it?
More standing.
Or in the wild. It grows everywhere.
I'd rather be walking because my feet are starting to burn.
Did you say that was a bird? I didn't hear it.
You said one of the dogs.
One of the dog family. Dock. A dock.
D-O-C. You didn't know which one exactly.
I thought it was brown dog. Yeah.
Okay. No, just M-U-L-L-I-N. Mullen?
M-O?
No, just M-U-L-L. Mullen. M-U-L-L-E-N. Sorry, no I.
No I?
No I. M-U-L-L-E-N. Okay, let's walk a little bit more.
You gotta burn that lunch off.
They're more expensive than nature.
In preparation.
That would be nice. I'll run them like
And if you're lucky enough to find one of those in the wilderness,
What?
one of the apple trees.
The trees, yeah. Hey, I found them. Oh, it's like an old homestead or something like that from way back. No traces of anything anymore, but here's this apple tree growing.
Wow.
And it's like just the flat lay of the ground. You realize, this was somebody's old homestead back then.
Right. Isn't that a form of
Here's where the dumpster is.
or not cauliflower? What am I saying?
Red clover?
The red clover. There we go.
Yeah.
There's some clover out there. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm going to hop over here and get it. I'll bring it back, this way.
What's your name? Diane. My name is Nettie. Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Are you from here? Oh, I live in Massachusetts. Yeah, it's a little far. Yeah. A couple hours.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Okay, got
It's a
two
little
of them.
far out here, huh?
Let's do this one first.
Yeah.
Red clover. Ellen White talks about going and gathering this stuff. This is really good. It doesn't grow too much out west, so I haven't had a whole lot of experience with
You
it.
can dry it and then make
Drying it and making a tea with it. Yeah, very good for you.
You can eat it like this.
You can eat it like this too? Okay, I thought so.
red clover.
You know, like that scene from Bambi.
Red clover.
That dates me, doesn't it? Okay. Anybody want to play with this one?
Yeah.
Here you go. Red clover. Yeah, that's a common weed out here too. All right, this one. This is lamb's quarters, also known as goosefoot. Oh, it's related to quinoa. You're familiar with quinoa?
Yes.
Quinoa is a relative of this. This stuff will grow if you let it.
Really?
Really.
What is it called again?
It's going to just burst into flame. It's going to all be gone. So let it cool, and then voila, you got charred cloth. And then when you're carrying it around, you turn your little thing, and so it doesn't get water in there. Okay, so that's how that works.
Hopefully we'll be able to make some Monday morning-ish.
Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so you want to have several methods of making fire besides a flint and steel. Yes.
Yes. Do you know about magnifying glass?
Yes, I do. I've made a fire with that, but what happens if you want to make your fire out in the cold, dark night in a snowstorm?
Think about that too.
There's no sunshine then. So, but if you're out in the sun, yes, that would work, but it's not going to work if it's dark. So, any other questions?
Pray that your flight be not in the winter or the Sabbath day. That's what the...
And I'll tell you something else. If you can't make a fire in your backyard on a warm, sunny afternoon, you're not going to make it up in the woods in the cold and in the dark and in the storm. So you need to practice, you know?
Yeah.
And if you can't go on a trip right now, that's fine. Practice in your backyard. In fact, a lot of our family, our kids have been doing this since they were little, and a lot of our friends too, and our niece and all them, they've kind of grown up with it. But even to this day, when they make a fire in their wood stove in the winter, they start at some alternate method just to keep their skills good, so they don't lose their skill. So, okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay.
I understand your birch bark makes good tinder.
Yeah. I just want to go back to something she said and emphasize it. And fire starter is probably the best way to illustrate this point. Is let's say you have matches for your fire starter, and we're out there until Jesus comes. Sooner or later, you're going to use that last match. Then what? Okay, you have a lighter. Sooner or later, that lighter runs out. Then what? Okay, you want a method that's sustainable. And both of the methods that Becky demonstrated here are sustainable. Okay, the flint and steel kit technically will run out because you are scraping little bits of metal off of the striker, but it's going to take an awful long time for that to wear out, to where it doesn't work anymore. And so we, not only with fire starting methods, but with all of everything that we put on the list, we need to put stuff that's going to be sustainable, something that'll work for us until Jesus gets here. See a hand up over here.
Yeah, you can get the torches, acetylene torches. You get those starters there, and they carry little tips with them that you can replace,
Yeah.
and they'll last a long while as well.
Okay, but eventually they'll still run out too.
But if you carry extra, you can carry a lot of little ones with it. They'll last.
Yeah, well, that's like a whole pack full of toilet paper to last.
They only weigh a fraction of an ounce.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I mean, there's things like that you could additionally have one of those.
Yeah. Well, and
Just make sure whatever method you take, you've tried it out before you go up there.
Well, that'll start a fire.
okay, so we started a fire. We boiled some water. We're thirsty, so we let the water cool. Take a big drink. Then we fill it back up. We want to take some water with us. So we fill it back up and we boil some more water. We could carry the water in the cook pot, right? What would be a better way? Yeah, a water bottle. So let's put one of those in our packs. So we hike a little bit farther, and we get to a nice place to make camp. What are we going to want in order to make our camp? Shelter. Some kind of shelter. Hope to do this at length more, so I'm going to go ahead and make the point here. It might not get sunk completely home until we do the class on another day. But we were out on a practice survival trip several years ago, and we were making our shelters. And can you hear me okay in the back? Yes. Okay. One of our friends that was along on the trip, he stops and he says, you know, one way or the other, you got to do the work. And what he meant by that is you need a shelter. One way or the other. I mean, on a nice summer, evening, you might not, but the rest of the year, you're going to need some kind of a shelter. And if you don't bring something with you, you're going to have to build something when you get there. Okay, and this same principle goes for all these things. We talked about that. If you don't have a knife, you're going to have to break a rock, use the sharp edge. Okay, one way or the other, you got to do the work, though. You either got to carry the knife, or you got to break the rock and then use that. Okay, in the case of the knife, this knife is superior to the broken rock, that it's worth carrying this. In the case of the shelter, it's worth bringing a few things. Okay, again, we will demonstrate this in one of the classes we do at more length. But what we, in thinking about what he said and the principle involved there, that's influenced how, pretty much everything we put in the pack anymore. Because one way or the other, you need this stuff. And that's why I said at the beginning, culturally, we're not used to thinking about our needs. Laodicea doesn't recognize its needs, but we have these needs. Okay, shelter out in the woods is going to be one of them. And I'm not going to pull it out of my pack now because we're going to do that in the class. But I have a tarp in this pack. Okay, how hard is it to carry the tarp? Weighs right about a pound. Not too hard compared to the amount of work that I'm going to have to go do in order to build some kind of a shelter. Much easier to carry the tarp. And it gives me a waterproof shelter right away, rather than having to spend a couple hours building some kind of a shelter. So anyway, we'll talk more about that, as I said. In order to set up a tarp shelter, what else would I need? Cordage. Some kind of cordage. You all know what cordage is? Root word is cord. Okay, in primitive skills, bushcraft circles, we call it cordage. Stands for everything from thread to rope. But some kind of cordage to tie up the tarp. So we'll bring a tarp in our pack. Some cordage. Cordage comes in handy for a lot of other stuff. So we get our shelter all set up. What else are we going to want when it comes time to go to bed?
Sleep bag.
Sleeping bag or some kind of bedding, blanket, something like that, right? So I'm just going to say bedding because that's the generic term for it all. And before we go to bed, what else are we going to want to do? Yeah, we'll have worship, but what else? Talking about physical needs here.
Brush your teeth.
Hopefully we'll get to talk about that.
Elimination.
Yeah, keep your fire going.
We'll keep the fire going, maybe all night if it's cold.
Right.
What else are we going to want to do in the evening, though, before we go to bed? Anybody thinking about supper, or are you still full from lunch? Okay, so we, looked at some wild edible plants and stuff like that, and we would have been gathering that along the way. But it's a good idea to have an initial supply in your pack. Now imagine carrying all these things as you're walking down the trail. What do you want to do? Have some kind of a pack to put it in? I want to add two more things to the list that kind of don't fit in the little hike scenario thing so much, although they actually have everything to do with it too. Statistically, whether or not you actually survive in a survival situation, they say the single most important determining factor is whether or not you are wearing adequate clothing as you go into the situation. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so need to think about adequate clothing. And kind of along that line, I would really want to encourage you to bring a warm hat in your pack, okay? I have like a wool beanie, warm hat kind of thing in my pack here. Because you lose over 75% of your body heat from your neck up. And so that hat's going to go a long way towards keeping you warm. A few other things I carry in my other pack, but at least something like that. Doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't weigh a whole lot, real easy to carry in the pack, can make a huge difference. Gloves can come in real handy too. And there's one other item, that's the last place on the list there. This probably the least essential item on the list. However, it's so useful for so many different things, and that's some kind of a scarf. Okay, just an extra piece of cloth.
Lamb's quarters.
Lamb's quarters or goosefoot. The leaf on some of them looks like a goose's foot.
It's nice. You can make salads with this stuff and
This stuff's good. Okay, there are people who grow this in their gardens for to eat. Usually you don't have to plant it, it's just a weed.
That's right.
Yeah, just come and pick it. I like picking it when it's about this tall. Okay, it's still, I mean, like right now, this whole plant you can eat. Like it's telling you buds are best, well, this whole plant is still in that category right now. When it gets about this tall, it still is, if it has good growing conditions. It doesn't have good growing conditions and it's starting to get tough. But again, when it's about this tall, then, I mean, like you get lots for picking one plant, right? Twice as much as this, at least. This is really, I like it this better cooked than raw, but it's good raw too. So I'll let you sample it. This is, again, a common weed in gardens. So like, you know, wait till it gets that big, harvest it all, and as you're weeding, eat the weeds. They're supposed to be super nutritious and all that good stuff too. When you, I'm gonna like let you come and take it. When you take it, notice how the underside of the leaf feels a little like it has sand grains on it or something. Okay, that's kind of a distinguishing characteristic of this stuff. Yeah, so whoever wants some, come get it.
You got the date.
Fantastic. Is that the spinach?
Feel the little grains underneath?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead and pick that leaf. Let somebody else pick a different one.
Okay. No bad.
Yeah, this looks good.
Yeah. We can eat in the wilderness. Not a rock. Yeah, the little sound.
Anybody else want some? There's more here.
Yeah.
What?
Anybody else?
He's just right here. It's probably over there.
Going once, going twice. Anybody? Oh, here we go. Nobody's taking the buds and the bass. Here, go ahead.
Tell me how it tastes.
There's still a little bit more here if somebody wants it.
I'll do it.
There you go, brother.
Right on.
Yeah, just exactly.
Oh wow.
Yeah, stem and all is good when you.
Yeah.
It's a little tart, but
I got chocolate pasta.
I mean, it's not. It's almost kind of radishy tasting.
Really?
Yeah, it tastes like similar radish.
Maybe that's where it's growing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, interesting.
let's walk some more. Excuse me.
Let's try it. Try some.
There's the narrow leaf plantain right here.
Oh.
See the narrower leaves, but still has that parallel veining.
Yeah, these are all these
You
here.
can do the same stuff with it. Just the narrow leaf gets tough real quick.
It's edible. Yeah, we're weeding out all this stuff out of our garden.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I don't know if we're undoing everything we should not be doing.
Our garden needs weeded. Call out the forager.
They're not good.
I thought you were talking about the big commercial. In this season, maybe we can find this kind of fruit.
Put your water in my
You
bag.
did find one.
Here. No, a lot.
It's kind of awkward. Just gonna hold that like that.
You ate them?
Yeah.
Might as well. They're all stomping on them now.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking I was seeing wild strawberries, and sure enough, Sister pulls one up and says,
Oh yeah.
"We got these here." Okay.
Here's your vitamin C.
They look the same like the regular strawberries. It's just the berries are smaller.
Right.
Okay, but they're good.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with them at all.
You see a camera?
It's not on. Well, it's on, but it's.
Okay, I wanted to talk about this one here. When I first saw this, I thought
It'll be all
poison
over our
ivy.
Facebook or,
Okay.
But there's a saying, leaves of three, let them be. But if it's hairy, then it's a berry. Okay, and look at the underside and feel, it's very hairy.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Now I don't recommend go around feeling poison ivy to see whether it's hairy or not.
Especially don't rub it in your eyes, right?
But it has thorns on it. That's probably and hairs on the stems. You can see the thorns here.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's probably a better thing to look for. Poison ivy doesn't have thorns.
Poison ivy has notches in the leaves.
Yeah, well, these do too sometimes. But the leaves look a little different. It's just, quick glance, you might see three leaves and think poison ivy. But remember the saying, leaves of three, let them be. I mean, that's poison ivy.
Let them be.
But if it's hairy,
If it's
then it's a
hairy,
berry.
then it's eatable. Then it's what? A berry.
A berry. Now, what kind of berry is this probably? Wild raspberry. That's what I'm guessing is wild raspberry. Okay. Just wanted to confirm it with the locals here. You know what? Raspberries and boysenberries and blackberries, they all have they're made up of just a whole bunch of little globies, right? Okay, any of those berries are edible, like worldwide. If it's made up of just a bunch of little berries, okay, those are all edible. So like all those different kind of berries. That's worth knowing. You know, you find a berry. Oh, this doesn't look quite right for a blackberry that I'm familiar with, but it still is made up of all the little globs. It's like, looks like a blackberry. Up in the northwest, they have a berry they call the salmonberry.
Yeah, we have it here too.
Oh, you have salmonberry here too? Okay. Anyway, that's like for a berry color, that's really weird looking. But they're edible because they're that same family.
Huh.
That's worth knowing. Okay, let's see what we can find down here.
I like it. We might make it to the creek. What do you think?
I'd like to. I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, right?
Well, there's always a whole nother set of plants that grow along the creek.
Oh, right.
That's
Yeah.
what I was wanting to tie into.
Yeah, I need to get a book and get out there and start doing this because it's been so long. Like Pathfinders was the last time I ever did any of this stuff, you know, and that was like 20 years ago, maybe even longer.
Okay, let's go ahead and stop the group here.
All right.
Yeah, before it starts getting real thick. Yeah, we're getting way from... Let's see, the best way to do this would be
Get the high
for
ground.
me to get up.
There's a good stump there.
There's a wire right there. Be careful.
Only the bark.
Yeah.
He wants to talk about the bark.
Too bad for y'all, I get to sit down. No, I want to show you something I got in my pack here. Can we scoot down just a little bit farther? Don't get where there's a tree in your way, though. Okay, I think everybody can see me now. All right, what I'm hoping to do, you're noticing here in the woods, in the dark, you know, the deep woods, there isn't a whole lot of stuff on the ground.
But there is.
I'm hoping to get down by the creek where there's a whole other set of plants probably growing. That's what I'm anticipating. And we'll see what we find down there. But while we're here in the woods, I want to talk to you about this one. Anybody know what this is called?
Is that hickory?
Digging stick.
Oh.
Okay, it's a digging stick. This is your primitive multi-tool. Okay, it's called digging stick because you dig up edible roots with it. But you can use it for a mallet, okay, fireplace poker. I have a notch here, so I put my cook pot in and out of the fire with it. Beat off the boogeyman. Oh, I don't know. Some people throw it to bring down small game, and so on. Lever, pry bar, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I like having a little hook, you know, kind of a curvature here so I can reach up and pull stuff down.
That's a great idea.
And so on. Anyway, this is one of the first things I would want to make in a survival situation. Now, I've learned to carry one already made, and this is my demonstration pack, by the way. This is not my regular pack. Maybe I'll show you that later in the week. I've learned to carry one in here because, like on a Sabbath afternoon hike, here I am, I need a digging stick. I don't need to take the time to go make one, right? So I've got one already made. And so I'm learning to have one already made in my pack. I like them just a little bit longer than this. They say from, you know, your arm length, like from your shoulder to your palm, this in this area, that's a real good length for me. Since you're using this as a mallet, like when you want it as a pry bar, you want the length, but when you're using it as a mallet, you really don't want it a whole lot longer than this. So like that extra little length is okay. But if it gets too long, then it's counterbalanced and it throws off your accuracy and the force that you can hit something with. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you. If I'm in dark, you know, deep dark woods like this, I'm going to be looking for a young tree that's growing in an area where it's too thick that needs to get thinned out, I can be making one of these for.
Right.
Or out
Yes.
of.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got the picture.
Yes.
You want to use a hardwood, and you also want to like cut this fresh rather than it being something that's died and then who knows how long it's been dead up in the tree, finally got rotten enough to fall out on the ground, and who knows how long it's been sitting there rotting on the ground. And you try to use it, use it as a mallet, and it just crumbles in your hand or falls apart. So, this is a tool that you're going to use over and over again and carry it with you. It's going to be worth it to go ahead and cut one of these out of, something substantial.
Good Betty.
Yeah. So, I'm kind of introducing a way of thinking here. I'm going to do this more at length. Bandana or scarf. We've used these for first aid applications, extra clothing, mosquito netting, washcloth, tablecloth, improvised clothing, even diapers, so on. So again, it's so versatile that it's earned a place on the list. Hand up.
Yeah, I was just saying that this is wonderful because when we read the Bible and it says don't turn back for anything, you think that you don't need to prepare all of these things ahead of time. You're like, when it's free, just leave whatever you have on yourself, just go with that, not knowing that this is a part of the preparation.
We're going to talk about that at length tonight. Our study this evening is about those very verses.
We'd like to do that study first, but it just didn't work out in the schedule.
Right.
Right, because I think that flee, like when God said, when Jesus said,
Yeah.
don't turn back for anything, leave it. You think you're going to leave your water bottle and stuff.
We need to redefine what it means to be ready.
Right.
We really do. And we'll work on that this evening. Okay, need to wrap this up. Two things I want to do here real quick. First one is based on this list. Okay, there is an expanded list of actual equipment item categories that we need in order to provide ourselves with these things. In other words, for shelter, there are three types of shelter we need to concern ourselves with. Okay, and I'll just give them to you real quick here. Hopefully nobody, anyway, I don't like doing it this way, but clothing, and then bedding. Your clothing is like your body shelter, right?
Clothing
And
and
then-
footwear.
And then bedding is something extra to wrap up at night when it gets colder, as well as structural shelter, which is what we typically think of. Okay. Water, we need some kind of a container for water. Okay, whether it's a simple water bottle or 2,500 gallon water tank. Okay, it's all a water bottle. Health concerns, there's a whole bunch of different hygiene items. Fire, you need some way to start the fire. And fuel. Food, you need the food. But also to prepare food, I'm just going to call it cook pot and utensils. Like everything in the kitchen could kind of get condensed down to that. And beyond that, there's 4 more categories of tools. Now, I mean tools kind of in an anthropological sense here. If you remember a while back, the scientists got all excited when they saw monkeys poking a stick in the termite hole. And then the monkey pulls the stick out and eats the termites. Okay, that stick is a tool. Because before this, they thought people are the only ones that use tools. Well, actually, there's lots of different animals that use tools. Monkey can't eat the stick. But the monkey can use the stick to get something you can't get otherwise. And that's what a tool is. It's not one of these priorities directly, but it helps you to get them. And there's 4 main categories of tools. Anybody guess what the first one might be? Knife. Your knife. Okay. I'm going to say cutting,
Digging,
and chopping. Because you need something both for fine carving and for meal preparation, and then you need something that you can do some serious wood shaping with. You have both of those needs. We kind of talked about that down on the hill. Somebody mentioned digging tool. And then cordage, fasteners. You go into a hardware store, probably most of what they got in there is some kind of fasteners, right? And then the last one is containers. And this is everything from the grocery bag to the dresser drawer to the box in the garage. Okay, we just need things to put things in to carry them more easily and to keep them organized and stuff.
What do you need, like a compass?
Pardon?
Like a compass.
Compass.
Yeah, that's not on here. We need that in order to find our way. I'm talking about just physical survival here. If we're not worried about finding our way, we don't need the compass, but we still need all of these things. Now, just one point I want to make on all of this. We have all this stuff in our homes.
mm-hmm.
Okay, somebody might say, well, I don't have any digging tools in my home. Yeah, but somebody used some kind of excavation equipment to level out the pad for the house, dig the trenching for the piping and wiring and so on. Okay, we didn't do that. We don't have it, so we don't think about it, but somebody did. I don't have any chopping tools in my home. No, but somebody chopped the trees down and milled them up, make lumber to build a house with. Okay, so we have all these things in connection with our home. Just somebody else did it, so we don't think about it. Same way that somebody else makes electricity work, so all we got to do is flip the switch. We talked about earlier. So these are the things that we need in order to keep ourselves, the actual equipment item categories that we need in order to keep ourselves alive. Okay, whether you're at home or in the wilderness. And what I wanted you to do is just see the correlation between this list and this list. Okay? You know, we got the water bottle here. I don't want to draw actually, because I'll make a whole bunch. We got bedding, we got clothing, we got structural shelter here with the tarp, we got cordage, we got fire starter, we got food, we got cook pot, cutting and chopping tools, so on. Hand up back there.
Do we need a flashlight?
Flashlight's going to come in really handy, but it's not essential. I'm talking about what's essential. Now, there's a lot of stuff like flashlight. Don't limit yourself to this list. Okay? I can include stuff like a flashlight or a headlamp, first aid kit, initial supply of toilet paper, and so on. But make sure, remember I said a lot of people show up on their first trip. They're not bringing what they actually do need. Well, this is a list of what you actually do need. You can bring other stuff in addition to this, but at least bring these guys.
What is the dimension of your tarp?
My tarp that I'm carrying here is an 8x10. For most people, I would recommend a 6x8, but because I'm taller, I need the extra length, and so I have the 8x10. We will talk more about that one of the other classes here. This is just kind of an introduction and overview. One last thing before I turn you loose. Let's go back to this. Let's just say it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. Then let's take this and do this with it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. And that gives us the second verse for the song. So let's sing. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Now the second verse. Water bottle, cook pot, fire starter, tarpon, cordage. Water bottle, cook pot, fire starter, tarpon, cordage. Adequate clothing, bedding, food pack, knife and scarf. Adequate clothing, bedding, food pack, knife and scarf. Always keep them in your pack. Be sure to keep them in your pack. Because wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Foolish people keep going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3.
Looks like everyone's going to sleep out there.
It is officially nap time. Let's pray. Father, give us a good rest. Thank you that we've been able to do what we have this afternoon. Seen some of the resources you have for us out in the wilderness. Encouraging us to realize that you can spread a table in the wilderness for us. May we be willing to do our part and prepare. And not just sit back and expect you to dump it all on our laps. Thank you. The program's been going well so far. Please continue to bless. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. In a bit, before we're done on the hike thing. But what would I need? What tools would I need to make one of these?
A hatchet.
Okay, yes, definitely a knife. Okay, what else? But imagine making the whole thing with just the knife.
Hatchet.
Okay, this is hardwood.
Yeah. Is it a hatchet?
Okay, hatchet for to carve the point, possibly, yes. What else would work instead of the hatchet?
Small saw.
Somebody said machete?
Nice.
Chainsaw. Gotta throw it out.
Here's one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for what it's worth, I have Latin roots, okay? So I've been a machete person for years and years and years. They used to be able to go to Harbor Freight and get these things for like $2. Can you believe it? They don't have them anymore. Really too bad. So I experimented with a lot of different lengths, and I found out like this 10-inch length here, this is what this one is cut to 10 inches. For like our uses, like what we're doing here, this is like the best length. Okay, 9 inches a little short, 11 inches is too long. You know, it's like 10 inches is perfect. Because you're using it for craft work as much as you are for, you know, any kind of brush slashing and chopping. And so you want the accuracy, you know, like the longer machetes, those are great for brush slashing and stuff, but you're not doing a whole lot of that out here. You're doing more like trimming branches off of poles for shelter poles and craft work. So, yeah. Somebody did mention a saw.
Hey, I wasn't too far off.
And we
Just minus the chain.
We have to have all of these tools when we are in the wilderness.
We have to have
You're
it
catching
before.
on, sister.
Yeah, you're catching on.
What?
We can't have it then.
What brand is
Okay,
that?
this is my favorite saw right now. It's called a Baco Laplander, but basically any folding pruning saw would work. I just like this one because it has a real narrow profile. Most of them are wider somewhere along the way. So I can like slip this into my pack real easily. Okay, but I'd use the saw to cut this to length, then use the machete to cut the point, and trim off any twigs or branches sticking out, and then my knife to fine tune it, make it nice and smooth, to run my hand all the way up and down. Okay?
Or you can use sanding paper if you have any.
Pardon?
Sandpaper.
Sandpaper. This doesn't need sandpaper. You got a sharp knife, you're good. Now, I got a real interesting comment here just a minute ago. You mean you have to carry all those tools in your pack? Remember what I said earlier, we're so used to flipping switches, we're not used to thinking about...
All right, guys.
Glad you caught that.
Well, there's barbed wire there too. Yeah, there's barbed wire just below you.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay.
Maybe you kids need to
Yeah, come on down.
back down around or something. Or
That could have hurt somebody
We're
bad.
about ready to go anyway, so you guys work your ways down. Again, we're not used to taking along what we need. And then we get stuck in a situation where we don't have what we need, and we call it survival because we don't have our switches to flip and our knobs to turn. Okay, when you go out to the woods, I mean, I've been out there, I can assure you there are no switches and knobs out there. That means you got to bring it in your pack.
You don't bring it, you gotta make it when you get there.
No knobs for the bathtub, and for the microwave, for the propane stove, for the dryer, the internet.
Okay, now before you start thinking about all the nice things you want in your pack,
No, I saw it there.
the word flee means what?
Run.
Move fast, travel light.
Yeah.
Okay, talks about fleeing from angry mobs. If I got a big pack full of enough toilet paper to last until Jesus comes, what's going to happen to that pack? Okay, we laugh, but I mean, what's the first thing off the shelves when there's any kind of a panic?
Toilet paper.
Go figure.
Yeah, who would have thought? Hampton.
No, no, there's a,
Hampton. Go over.
Yeah, go up around behind you.
I'm gonna put a leash on that thing.
Okay.
Hampton, this way.
Get angle up and sort your feet.
There's a wire right there.
Lift your foot up. There you go. Thank you.
No more going on the hill, man.
No casualties today.
Okay, one of my goals, if you remember what I said, one of my goals is to get you guys to understand what you need when you're out here. Okay, and be sure and bring those things. And so we're starting to make a list already. Now, just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to put knife on the list.
Right.
But you understand that knife means all of these sharp edge cutting tools that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Okay, saw, some chopping tool, whether it's a machete or a light hatchet. Okay, for heavier work, and then knife for fine carving and meal preparation. Like these are things that we need in order to make life work out here.
Mm-hmm.
Sharpening too.
And the equipment to keep them sharp.
Stone.
Okay, I have done survival trips. I mean, it's a survival program, and told people you need to bring these items. And somebody shows up without a knife, and I'm like, wasn't it on the list? Yeah, but I didn't think we'd need it.
Wow.
He had a rough time.
The question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So how do you make a bug repellent in the wild?
It's called smoke.
Smoke?
There are some herbs that work, but they're usually like local, one place or another.
Yeah.
Generally, smoke is like.
So you make a fire.
Smoke. The other thing is so you make a fire. The other, we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing is staying active.
Oh, mercy.
Had this one group of young boys out, and it's getting towards evening, and the mosquitoes are coming out, and they hadn't built their shelter yet, and I was like trying to encourage them to build their shelter, but all they could think about was the mosquitoes. Like, what can we do to get rid of the mosquitoes? And I told them finally, well, if you make a fire, that kind of helps. And then all they could think about was getting a fire going. What's priority number one?
Shelter. Water.
The activity of building the shelter will make it harder for the bugs to chase you down. If you're just sitting there thinking about it,
Time to move.
They're gonna feast.
I like
Yeah. God didn't create us to be couch potatoes.
No.
Okay. I'm
Amen.
gonna work my way down, and we will continue down to the creek. See what we can find down there.
Remember the wire.
Yes, and I've got it right coming up the hill here. So
Oh,
I
okay.
gotta be careful.
Too much like his dad. Too much. There was a lot of trips at the ER. My kids, man.
An adventurer.
Oh, mercy. Oh, you all right? Yeah. All right, you gotta be careful. We don't need you falling, Diane. We'll be carrying you out of here.
What?
This is nice down here.
Yeah. Good camping spot.
Yeah,
right next to the creek, got a cover. Down in the low in the valley, get some wind blockage.
Plenty of stuff down
Yeah.
there.
Careful on the rocks, they're slick. I got something you could. No, I wouldn't, but I've got something you could filter it with.
Yeah.
Barco, B-A-H. I don't want someone to roll the ankle.
You could get some diarrhea, but it'll mess you up a little bit. Yeah.
Well, there's other stuff growing down here, but I'm not seeing anything I'm familiar with. So if anybody else knows something, share it with the group. Yeah.
You camping? You have a camp up here? Yes. You'll be down here to have a shower? Yeah.
I almost came down here and took a dip this morning. I was going to put my swimming trunks on. I might do it tomorrow morning.
I'm going to come down tonight. For tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Come down here and jump in and have a good time.
That's a nice flowing stream.
Yeah.
Where does this water come
Up the road.
Off the river?
I have no idea. No, it's all off the land. So it's going to be mixed with fertilizers, cow poop, probably whatever comes off the fields.
Yeah.
So fertilizer, animal poop, cow poop.
Yeah.
You know, all the stuff that we'd find in a field, but bugs, dead animals, you know, the standard fare.
You just talked me out of my bath.
I would stop me from taking a bath.
I think the best place is going to be on that level right up there.
Gather around, everybody.
Yeah, we're working on this level up here.
All right, we're going uphill.
Captain?
Okay, gather around. What time is it now? 5. 5 o'clock, perfect. Okay, we'll be back again at 7. You are free to go.
You're all right.
I don't really care to be in that picture.
I think I've gotten everybody anyway. That's all right.
I found
Oh,
a saw
yeah.
made out of just wire that rolls
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Probably not very good, but my daughter picked me up.
The trouble with them, they don't last.
Yeah.
I got one,
One
and
time
you know,
or
like
so.
yeah, one time or so. I want something that's going to last till Jesus comes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, I found. Actually, the other brother found it. This is called a fiddlehead. And thank you. I was looking for these all the way down.
What's her name?
This is a fern.
Fiddle. Oh.
You know, you seen the ferns growing here?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a young fern shoot. And you know how you do asparagus? You know, you break it, and wherever it breaks, it's tender beyond that and not below. Well, where I broke this, it snapped right there. I probably could have gotten a little bit more. The part that you eat isn't the curly part so much as the stem. Okay? So if you want to sample this, I would expect it to taste sort of like celery.
I like celery.
Okay? So if you want some, come and just break off like a 1/4-inch piece so that as many people as possible can sample it.
Oh, I'll take a picture.
I want to.
You want a picture? Yeah.
There's a restaurant in Gardner, Maine. That's one of their main dishes.
Yeah, it's a little more tart than celery. Yep. Definitely got it. Yeah, it's a little sour.
Yeah, a little more tart than celery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would class it that way too.
Yeah.
I can smell the tartness in it.
You certainly taste it.
Can we try the next one? All right, you tried it, right? Yeah. The next one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's all different kinds of ferns. The best part's the stem. I mean, that's where you're getting the most. Yeah.
Can I see it?
Yeah, I've got that same thing. Plant.net. Yeah, I've got that same deal.
That's
cool.
Yeah, come get
Any plant.
What?
Yeah, I got the same.
This is a fern shoot. They call them fiddle necks. You know, like the end of a fiddle girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't tell you anything. Yeah, that one there.
Anybody else want some?
Plant
A couple more pieces.
net.
Going once, going twice. You got the best part. It's all the way up at the top.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a membership. It's $9 a year for the season.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they're telling me. They specialize in these things.
Fiddleheads.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Okay. I expected to find more down here than what I actually found. I think it was still worth coming down. You got to see the creek. Would recommend you should shake hands with the creek at least.
He said it's a little late in the season for those.
Yeah, it is late in the season. Most of them have already all fanned out, so I'm really glad there's still one that you found. Okay, so we're going to head back to the tent right now. Becky didn't bring it along with her, and we need to end up back there anyway.
It's not my fault. He told me that I was going to do it up there. So.
Well, I didn't know what I was going to find down here. While we're here, where'd Rob go? Right there, Rob. On our property that we had in Mariposa, there was a little wet weather creek that went down the back. We had like 3 years of drought or so, and it went totally dry then. But like every other year, there was at least a trickle in it. Okay. I had some watercress growing in the creek. Okay, and other stuff like that, right? And so we made a little campsite area like what you have here, except it was much smaller because we're on a steep hill. It was just, like from me to you and that wide maybe, was all our space was. But we would take groups on Sabbath afternoon. We had a little adventure club that we'd do stuff with, and we'd go down there on Sabbath afternoon and hang out by the creek, play a little bit, make a fire, let the kids cook some food, and then have sundown worship and, back. Distance, probably about the same distance here. Anyway, we use that a lot, and so I would encourage you to do something similar here. Sure. Yeah. Okay, let's just head back to the tent as quickly as possible. And we've got a couple of demonstrations for you there, as well as want to wrap up what we're talking about. Okay.